Hi everyone.
Hi.
I was trying to give a few more. Oh, there we go. There's our fifth member. All right. Now that everyone's here, now we can start. Sorry to keep you guys waiting. Oh, you get this backlight. This is annoying. First, I wanted to thank everyone for being here again, even though we just had a meeting last week. Um, I know there was a lot of discussion last week, about, having time for folks to be able to weigh in, to be able to do outreach, to make sure that we're not, rushing this process needlessly. And, I wanted to address, that real fast because, we are facing a deadline of April 1st to get our bylaws changes submitted to the city. And the one of the reasons why I want to have this meeting again so soon is because this will actually give us the opportunity to have more public input and will essentially give us a second bite at the apple. Because this way we're able to make some suggestions and have some discussions and send them to the board for this month's meeting. And it also means that we get a chance to do that again next month, which if we waited, we wouldn't. And on top of that, Lydia had an excellent suggestion, which is that we should have a retreat or, kind of like a mini town hall in between, where we can have, more of an open discussion about the proposed rules changes, how those will relate to the standing rules changes that will go with them, and then be able to have that discussion in time for that March VNC, full VNC board meeting to take place as well. So I know this isn't a perfect process, but given the time and the situation that we've been handed, I think by doing it this way, we get to have more chances to discuss these issues fully, to have some back and forth with the other board members, to have more public discussion and outreach, and hopefully get some important changes passed and passed through the full VNC council so that we have a chance of having a council that operates more smoothly, hopefully more respectfully, and most importantly, that gets more people involved in the election uh, and get more people involved in our monthly meetings to be able to have more outreach and to include more stakeholders in the VNC process so that collectively, we can actually have more of a voice, and we can have more of a voice with the city, and we can hear more of those voices. So I appreciate everyone who is here, who's sticking with us, and is, helping us move this process along, so that we can have those chances for input and to be able to hopefully make some changes that allow more people to participate in our elections and in our meetings. Uh, and most of those changes, though, we're not going to see the effects of them until next year. But this is where it starts. So with that, I think we should get to our agenda. We have a lot to get through today. We have our meeting minutes to do. We're gonna do our unfinished business and continue with the review of some of the proposed changes. We have a motion on a standing committee from Kenya. We have a motion on committee agendas from Richard Stanger. And we have a discussion about hosting a town hall with Lydia. And so, I hope we can all, get through this together, and hopefully we can feel okay about it. So, with that, I think I want to propose a motion on approving the minutes.
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a unanimous consent on approving the rules?
Second.
If no one opposes, then let's move on to our business. Lydia, your hand is up. You can just unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm voting no to approve these because it doesn't show the no votes. It just says yes, yes, or failed. I think that we need to be clear on how the vote went, transparency.
Okay, well let's
I don't know that the way the minutes are written are correct. So my vote is a no.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, can you call a roll call on the minutes, please?
Yeah, let's call a roll call on the minutes. Nick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Liz, how do you vote? Liz, you're muted. You're still muted. I unmute you. I can ask you to unmute, but I can't. There we go.
Yes.
Yolanda, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Lydia, how do you vote?
No, and I think we're supposed to take public comment on this.
There's
you
no
do not.
public comment. There's no public comment on
All right.
the minute.
All right. Well, so the motion passes. The minutes are improved, and then we're gonna move to our unfinished business. So let me share a screen here. Please bear with me. Ah, red line. Here we go. Oh, that's not right, is it? Okay.
Well, I was trying to collect myself. I missed something about there was a motion of some sort.
Oh, okay. Here, let me I'll pull up the agenda first, so we can all get on the same page. All right. Can you see that?
Yes.
I can see it. I have it on my computer.
Okay. So we have our unfinished business about the bylaws. We have a motion from Kenya to establish schools and parks committee. We have a motion to require committee agendas from Richard Stanger. And we have a proposal to discuss a bylaws and standing rules town hall from Lydia. I guess before we begin, though, I think we need to do our public comment.
These motions were not in the agenda.
They should all be up there. I think that you may have clicked on the wrong link earlier, Liz, but I could be wrong. I think that Zoom link you tapped on was the one from last week. All right, are you able to see this one, Liz? This should be what's up on the calendar.
I have to get my own copy so I can write on it.
Do you want to take a minute to do that while we do public comment for the general public comment?
Sure.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to general public comment then. All right. Oh, yeah. Also need some. We got my notepad too. Wow. All right, I'm going to call on, there's a phone number here, and it's a 310 phone number, and you're going to have 1 minute to speak.
People of California here. Can you hear me, Chad?
Yeah, is that Ian?
Yeah.
Hey, Ian. How you
Um,
doing?
I'm I'm a little concerned by the way this committee seems to be stacked with fascist revanchists. I mean, how many committees does Nick get to be on, and why? And also, this is problematic if you guys are going anywhere but to what has worked in the past, which is the grassroots Venice neighborhood councils bylaws as they were approved by all the members of, by 2/3 of the stakeholders at least, and the board overwhelmingly, but pocket vetoed by the city, which neither approved nor disapproved them, then said you couldn't have had an election because you didn't have bylaws. Those bylaws were inclusive. They had at-large seating as well as districts, and they also didn't create separate classes between so-called community interest stakeholders who get to vote for one seat and others who get to vote for everyone, on the administrative board. That was done deliberately by Democrats to.
Yeah, I ultimately I agree. Also wonder what happened to the last one, which had a lot of this, and I think we're trying to address some of that in here. But sorry, this is not my time to speak. This is general public comment. All right, let me find the list again, whereas I'm fumbling. All right, Naomi, I'm gonna promote you to talk here, and you have 1 minute to speak.
Good afternoon. I want to speak about the discord that I'm hearing throughout the community, and in a few instances, I have observed personally myself, and I consider it very disturbing, not only about the Rules Committee, but about the operation and function of the Neighborhood Council in general. I know that the resignation of former President Brian Averill was bound to create some upheaval and restructuring, but name calling, finger pointing, and blaming will never be the ingredients of effective communication, operation, or administration of a body, particularly one that should pride itself in the diversity and representation of the community it serves. But that should be indeed the behaviors for the good of the community, not just in appearance. I pray you all recall your oath of office and act accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. I appreciate that. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm fumbling here. Erica, I'm going to promote you. You have 1 minute to speak.
Hi, Ted. Before you start my timer, I have a quick question about something. I don't think you guys took roll for your attendance today. Just FYI. So you might want to do that. So I'm hoping you're not going to use my public comment for that, but there wasn't roll, and we are allowed to give public comment on the minutes. So I'm not sure how that got shifted. Okay, so I don't know if you want to respond to that, but I'd like to make my public comment now about whatever. Is that okay? Because you're letting the clock just go. So does that mean you're not going to let me have my public comment?
Get 1 minute.
Okay, so you're going to use me addressing the fact that no roll call was taken and that. Okay, well, I'm concerned also about the structure of the agenda because there are things you're putting forward that were not listed on the agenda. These different motions, and they need to say what the motions are on the agenda. Thank you so much.
Helen, I'm going to promote you. You have 1 minute for public comment.
Yes, Eric is correct. You can't add things to an agenda without having submitted it to the Ita Ensla people. So your additions of those two motions are you just can't even hear them. I mean, you can't just decide you're changing your agenda at the last minute. And also, I just want to point out that your minutes do not meet the requirements of the Bonk minute policy. It must show how people voted, what the vote count was, who voted how. So those minutes are not minutes. I don't know what they are. So please clean it up. Your rules and elections, just role model the proper behavior or the proper rules and procedures.
Did you mean to mute yourself?
Yeah, I didn't need a minute to tell you what you needed to hear.
All right, thank you, Helen. Lisa, you have the floor now. You have 1 minute.
Yeah, some people call me nitpicky, but I am always nitpicky when it comes to public transparency. And that's why I'm a big fan of the Brown Act. And it does require the public to be able to speak on items, even consent items like minutes. Everybody has the right to speak on anything that a legislative body votes on before or during the body's consideration of the item. As well, the Brown Act requires all agenda items to be properly noticed. And you cannot, within the last 4 hours, change up a motion, change up an agenda, throw new motions on, throw up all of your supporting documents that should have been there 72 hours in advance, just because you have a whim to add different things onto an agenda. It needs to be noticed properly through the city, through Ita Ensla, through NC Support with a revised agenda, which wasn't done. And you just can't sneak one in on the public this afternoon by changing up your agenda. So I would strongly advise you don't consider any of those items that weren't on your original agenda.
Thank you, Lisa. Robin, you have 1 minute, and you should be promoted now.
Hey, hi, thank you. And I don't think this meeting can be held tonight. For one, I was on the VNC site several times on Saturday, and there was no agenda posted for a fairly long stretch of time. It was only the LUPIC meeting, and this meeting is before that, and it wasn't there. And number two, I don't think Liz clicked on the wrong link. I too have a very different agenda than the one you shared. I printed it out when I went on and got it. I think it was yesterday. I just don't think you can play fast and loose with the agendas. You have to put them up timely. You can't just take them down, make changes, put them back. Also, there were no supporting documents until right before this meeting, so I had no chance to prepare my comment. So I hope you will call the meeting tonight and reschedule it for a date sometime soon. Oh, do you want to know what my agenda says?
Thank you, Robin. And we have a Zoom user. Oh, we don't have Zoom user. All right, let's move on. So our first order of business is the unfinished business. What's going on again?
Ted, for unfinished business, I would like to bring a comment about Article 1. And I'm sorry I didn't catch it the last time, but part of it says that council, just the word council, can also be the name, and that is
Yeah.
absolutely wrong. It is Venice Neighborhood Council or VNC, period.
If it's defined there, why not?
Excuse me?
If it's defined there as council, then why can't it say council? I think this was just what was there before.
These are the bylaws. They've got to be right. And when it says name, it really means name.
Yeah, I think that where it says counselor is just sort of, it can be cited that way, further down in the document. It's a placeholder.
Okay, I don't think I was clear. When it says name, it's asking for the name of the council. The
Yeah, so
name
it
of
says
the
here,
neighborhood council.
so it says here, the name of this neighborhood council
is
shall be the Venice Neighborhood Council.
Or VNC.
And I don't see the issue, but I think why don't we? I think it would be helpful to pick up where we left off last time.
Would you accept that as a correction?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the correction.
Okay, look at Article 1.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Can you see my screen? Is it showing you Article 1 here?
Your screen is so tiny
Okay, here. Does that
because
help?
I have to have the other part of my screen used to write notes.
Can anyone tell me if it looks like Article 1 is on the screen right now?
Yeah.
Yes, it's on.
The name of this
Article 1 is
neighborhood
tiny.
council shall be the Venice Neighborhood Council, and then in parentheses, you have VNC or council.
VNC council, right.
So that looks accurate to me. And that's the language that was already approved by
I
Doug.
know it was already approved. It should not have already been approved because it's wrong.
What are you suggesting, Liz?
Cross out or council.
I want us to move on to the unfinished business and
Let's
maybe-
address this right now since there's an issue here. So what is it exactly that it needs to say?
Cross out or council.
Okay.
That's something you would use in some kind of document.
Okay.
We already say here, like the purpose of the council, the mission of the council. It's used across the document that way.
I'll take care of that housekeeping stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
But I want concurrence on the or council goes.
But
That makes sense.
Add it to the housekeeping.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Now, Nick, can you tell me where we left off?
I honestly don't remember.
You skipped a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but we even where did we skip?
Point of order, if we had the minutes clarifying, then we could have earmarked it, but we've had 3 people tell us that this meeting is not proper, and I don't want to violate the Brown Act, so can we spend 3 minutes on that at least? I make a motion to adjourn. All we have to do is reschedule it and do this proper. We can't, I just looked at the agenda at 10:30 this morning and I sent it to you, Ted, via text. This is not the same agenda. This is a huge violation of the Brown Act. And I apologize. I just don't want to get shut down and have to, if you want to save time and do this proper and have something approved April 1st, then I hope that I get a second on adjourning. All we have to do is reconvene at a later date and time when we have a proper agenda, transparent and clear.
There is no second, so the motion fails. Okay, so I think this is where we left off was at community outreach. Is that right? Maybe I should be. That was one of the things we skipped, but. All right, so the idea here on community outreach was specifically to direct outreach to set up a system to facilitate constituent correspondence and to, in addition to informing the stakeholders as to the existence and activities of the VNC and to support communications between stakeholders and the VNC's committees and the board members. So this is kind of an extension of the prior language. Also specifically sets up the system for that outreach committee to help facilitate correspondence between stakeholders, the VNC, and its members. And I want to take public comment on this. Do that is another question. How do I get back to the public comment? Okay, Helen, you have 1 minute.
You just stated that this was an extension of prior language. What exactly are you referring to? And could you please explain what a system of communications, constituent communications, is supposed to be? I don't understand that language at all. So I'd like to know what you're referencing that says is already there, and this is expanding on it. And then what's this constituent correspondence? Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Erica, you have 1 minute. The floor is yours.
Hi. Yeah, I'm a little confused by this as well. I'm not sure why that needs to be changed. Why the verbiage needs to be adjusted or changed. I know that line about all VNC board members participating in outreach was something added last time. And I will say, as the outreach chair, going on my third year or in my third year, it's really important. I think that it actually says that clearly, because I think that, I mean, really, we are all supposed to be representatives into the community to perform outreach to our stakeholders, whether it's to be their voice for something that they care about, or it's to invite them to participate, and possibly run for a position, or whether it's we're conducting the elections and we're interfacing with them to vote. There's a lot of people that just turn and go and don't participate that are on the board, and I think that line is really important. So I'm not sure why we would be changing that.
Thank you, Erica. Ian, you have 1 minute. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So first off, I cut off literally mid-sentence on my last public comment. I was saying dilute the participation of members of the community targeted for silencing by people like Mr. Tonejello. I want to point out that if this hasn't been noticed 72 hours in advance, the committee is acting in continuous breach of the Brown Act, and that's a problem. In terms of what this is actually saying here, I can't read it because I'm on the phone, and I have no idea what you're talking about in terms of how this is changing something that existed previously. I'm pretty sure there's a VNC email that gets sent to people, or there should be. Also, this might be part of communications as well, since they're the ones controlling the website and all the social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Kenya. Kenya, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Good evening. Based on the revision to the existing statement, it looks like it is pretty broad to encompass all members of Venice. And so I am in agreement with this statement. And in regards to the questions being asked of how, it's all the communication avenues that we have, like the newsletter, like social media, like engagement, like tabling. So I feel that this is conducive of what it needs to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. And all right, let's move on to board comment. Sorry, committee comment.
Who goes first?
You do.
Oh, okay.
You
I
want?
think I'm in. Good evening. I'm in agreement with Kenya. I have the bylaws here in front of me. And I was on board for the last meeting for the 3 hours that you had, which was very intense, but it was quite conducive. I'm in agreement with Kenya. She's right. And I like that new face that's bringing in those new changes onto this to this board and the continuation of the board. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if we don't have any other committee comment, then let's move on to the vote.
We need a motion.
The motion is to change the language of the Section 11 community outreach to the VNC shall direct that a system of constituent correspondence be instituted to inform stakeholders as to the existence and activities of the VNC and to support communications between stakeholders and the VNC, its committees, and members of the board.
Liz
I
has
second
got
it.
Liz has got her hand up.
Oh, okay. Let's got corrections.
I'm sorry, it takes me a long time to manipulate between these two things. I think the first paragraph should be retained.
So I think we already seconded on voting on it, though. We've already moved on to the vote.
Okay.
Liz, how are you voting?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Yolanda?
Yes.
Lydia?
I'd like to move to amend this. Liz had something pertinent
And
to
in
say.
the middle of a vote.
Then I vote no.
And then the motion passes.
Point of order. What happened to James King?
Okay, moving on to section 6, Article 6, officers. This is on page 15 and 16. This is a change that was paired with the change to the standing committees, because in the next section, we're proposing removing the administrative committee, and thus the president would not need the authority to set the agenda for the administrative committee. I'm also proposing to remove the responsibility
Instead of by
for vice
page,
president.
could you say article and section?
Yes, Article 6, Section 2, Part A, Part B, and
Thank
Part
you.
C. So in Part A, removing sets the agenda for the administrative committee if the administrative committee no longer exists. Removing the vice president's responsibility to maintain oversight of committees and ensure compliance with the Brown Act, Dunn, and Bonk policies. Removing the secretary's responsibilities over the administrative committee, and removing the secretary's responsibility to receive logs on all submissions and correspondence to the VNC and referring them to the appropriate officer or committee in 7 days. So with that, I want to invite public comment.
Ted, can you post that on so we can see it?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Would anyone else be able to share their screen? I'm having a hard time being able to show it and take the public comment. It's probably just I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, why don't you show it first and then take public comment?
All right, sounds good. All right, are you able to see this? I'm gonna
try to make it as large as you can.
Yeah. All right, so here's the section A. The administrative committee sets agenda for administrative committee. Vice president. This is removing the vice president's responsibility of maintaining oversight of committees and compliance with Brown Act, Dunn, and Bonk policies. The secretary's responsibility over administrative committee and removing the secretary's responsibility to receive and log all submissions and correspondence to the VNC and referring them to the appropriate officers or committee within 7 days. So with that, Ian, I'm going to give you the floor. You have 1 minute.
So, first off, it sounds like Gary Pearl, the vice president, should be responsible for the fact that this meeting was not properly noticed with 72 hours notice as required by the Brown Act. It seems like you're fixing things that aren't broken and actually breaking them. Oh, well, it's broken in the sense that he's not doing the job, but it's not broken in the sense that it's not been a problem for the VNC. The things that we need changes are the fact that there's this at-large jungle primary, where everyone gets 5 votes or whatever. There's no district representation. There's substantive changes that need to be made. I don't think taking away the duty of the vice president to make sure that the committees run legally is where we need to start hacking. This is a problem. I don't understand why that would be.
Thank you, Ian. Naomi, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
It's concerning to me that specific duties and responsibilities are being taken away from specific positions and then given to appropriate committees, which does not define or say specifically what those committees are and who will be making the decisions about what the appropriate committee is. That's disturbing to me. It sounds like more disorganization than organization, and it sounds like not minimizing or looking at more concise ways to do things, but creating complications because there's no specificity in the directions that are being taken away. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Helen, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I just want to be clear here. So you're eliminating the administrative committee in its entirety and turning all that over to the president. And you're also deleting, I just want to confirm, because it seemed to me all throughout this document, you've deleted all references to the Brown Act, as if this shouldn't be in our bylaws. Find that fascinating. You skipped over Article 5, where you've made some radical changes to who's actually serving or who's in charge of things. This is very confusing, and I think you're doing a whole disservice to the community by just rushing through this and not providing any information. And I also want to point out when people are asking you questions, we're not getting any answers. You're just going on, well, thank you for your input. We couldn't care less. I think it's a disservice to the stakeholders who are here trying to figure out what in the world all this means, including getting rid of every committee as far as I can see reading what you've put out.
Thank you, Helen. Erica, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Hi there. Okay, so yeah, it's almost like this is being done backwards because you're removing things. You're having on here that you're going to remove every committee almost, but you haven't done that first. Like to me, you'd have to address that first to see if if that talking to the stakeholders and looking at this with your committee, if everybody agrees, yeah, we shouldn't have any of these committees anymore, then you would then take away these different things from these different places, but you haven't done that yet. So that what you're trying to do would be null and void if these committees don't get removed. So it's very confusing, and I'm not sure how things are supposed to operate in a functional manner if you don't have certain things in place. Like when I see you removing from the secretary about that person being the one that disperses to other people, they get the information from stakeholders, but they have to then direct the stakeholders somewhere. But now who's going to?
Thank you, Erica. Let's see, Zoom user. Zoom user, you have 1 minute.
Hi, this is Sarah Mahir. I have a point of clarification. I'm very unclear as to when and where all of these bylaws were rewritten, who rewrote them. And I keep hearing on the Zooms that this has been in the process for months. If it's been in the process for months, it has not been disclosed with any stakeholders. So whom has been writing this? How long has this been going on, and how far back do the drafts go? Because it doesn't really seem transparent to our board or the public as to who has been in charge of these revisions, why the community has not been brought in on this, and how many people has it been, because this has not been a public process. Thank you.
Second chance. I move to adjourn.
Okay, Robin Rudisill here. Again, as in the last meeting, I'm concerned about considering changes in the bylaws without telling us if certain things are going to be replaced in the bylaws. It's just like things are disappearing, but we don't know if they're going to be reappearing, so can't really say how we feel. Also, I can't follow what you're doing because you're not showing it on the screen. At least, can you please tell us which of the documents on the website we're reviewing? I tried to find it, but there's a couple dated January 23rd, and I thought you updated the red lines for the changes in the last meeting, so maybe these aren't the right document, and if not, tell me which document here on the website I can open so I can follow along. Thank you.
You're muted, Ted.
The documents are unchanged from last time. Celia, you have the floor for 1 minute.
I think with this much, people don't know what's going on. I think it is a good idea to be have more explanation. This doesn't sound like a VNC board. This sounds like one person or a few people wanting to have all the power, and that's not what the Venice Neighborhood Council is about. I remember the oath that you guys took when you guys were sworn in. Work with the community. I hear a lot of people on here saying they don't understand, board members saying they don't understand. And if that's the case, then it needs to be that you go back, redo it, and come back and make it more flowing and understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia. Gary, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Hi, I just want to explain something. This is a committee that is offering up suggestions. I'm pretty sure that the committee chair is not going around his committee. But what I'd also like to say is part of the reason people don't understand, I've experienced this, and I should be clear that I'm the vice president and the presiding chair at the moment of the neighborhood council. I think what's happened is a lot of people are using convenience as bylaws and standing rules, and in fact, in a meeting I chaired, ignoring the bylaws of the city of Los Angeles, which is just unheard of. I think what you're watching is cleaning up. We always go by the Brown Act. Part of, as an example, does that need to be stated? It's cleaning up things for everyone. And I think we should all be honest about what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. All right, let's move on to board comment. And let me get the screen back up if I can. Oh. All right, Liz, do you have board comment here?
Let's do it just one office at a time. President, if you do away with the administrative committee, you have to say, well, then who's going to set the agenda? Because that has to be stated in the bylaws. It absolutely must.
It does say in here that the president
Excuse me?
Gets the. It says in here that the president sets the agenda.
It doesn't say that the president sets the agenda. It doesn't say.
What we're looking at, we don't see the president. We don't see the responsibilities of the president.
Oh.
We see the vice president. We don't see the president.
It's chairs the meetings of the board. It says chief executive.
And administrative committee.
Yeah, so we have to add and the president sets the agenda, unless we have that somewhere else.
Okay, I think you have to add a bullet.
I'm making a motion to
Sets
amend.
the agenda for the board meetings.
Sorry, could you repeat that, Liz?
I think you have to add a bullet that says the president sets the agenda for board meetings.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And do you understand why there was an administrative committee?
Well, with these changes, we're going to have a much smaller committee. We have 13 members instead of 21, with the 4 district representatives.
Okay, it had nothing, the creation of the administrative committee had nothing to do with the size of the board. It had to do with the size of the agenda.
You got here. Let's see.
So the agendas, you're saying the agendas were too big.
Excuse me?
You were saying that the agendas were too large?
Yes. And there were questions coming up, there were motions being made or being submitted that had no business in front of the board. That's why. And the administrative committee was there to say, this doesn't belong, or this is not ready yet for the board. It doesn't make any sense. It should go through a committee to get it into good shape, or that's what the administrative committee was about. So the board wasn't spending all of its time looking at crap.
And it sounds like you don't think that the president could do that, or could delegate that, or work with the other executive board members.
It's not a matter of can.
Lydia, you have a board comment? Sorry, committee comment?
Yeah, the ad hoc committee isn't just one person. We have a democracy now, as sloppy as it might be, and this tidying up is really uncomfortable because I definitely oppose turning an interim president into a king. In the land of Trump and everything that's going around on us today, we have to have local checks and balances. So why does this new interim president get all this new power, be it for a day, be it for a week or a month until we vote on a president?
These
Or
go into effect in next year.
seemingly, this is a very it's a dictatorial power to control the agendas, and I call BS, and I'll be voting no. Not that it makes a difference because this agenda is a bylaw. It's a conflict with the Brown Act. This is in this whole thing is a Brown Act violation. Thank you.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is because the agenda doesn't look the same from this morning to right now.
Let's give
We
everyone a
just do
chance to
not
speak once.
discuss the three new motions. It's fine.
Nick, do you have any committee comments?
Yeah, I don't understand what Lydia's point is. There's a process in place for the president. People will have the ability to file an application up until the 12th, is my understanding. And then the board will pick a new president on the 17th to fill the unexpired term. None of that's changing. That's what's happening. We're not doing anything to change it. We're not making anyone a king. The board will pick. The 20 members of the board will pick on the 17th, whoever decides to run. So I don't quite understand why any of this is germane or why any of this is even in order.
It's
Let's
germane.
vote on the information that's before us so we can get through this process and then submit it to the next level. That's our job. Our job as a committee is to do that, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Nick. Yolanda, do you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and eventually these are going to be reviewed by Dunn, aren't they?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the problem? So I would like to call the motion, if I may.
You may. I'll second that.
Thank you.
So the
Liz has
motion-
a hand. Liz has a hand up and she's muted.
You have to unmute yourself, Liz.
Liz, you have to unmute yourself. Liz, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I would like to make an amendment that says add a bullet to sets the agenda for board meetings.
Can't we just insert that into the?
No,
into the
this is-
minutes?
Let me make a point here. So the way that the rules are structured currently is that we have our bylaws, and our bylaws flow down to our standing rules, and our standing rules flow down to Robert's rules. Robert's rules fills all of the gaps that aren't covered by the standing rules or the bylaws, but anything that's in the standing rules or the bylaws trumps Robert's rules. A similar relationship between the standing rules and the bylaws. Anything that's in the bylaws trumps anything that is in the standing rules. In Robert's Rules of Order, the chair, the president, prepares the agenda and guides the meeting. So it would still be redundant to add the point that the president sets the agenda.
In the Venice Neighborhood Council, setting the agenda has been a bone of contention for many years.
Yes.
But trust me, it should be in the bylaws. It really needs to be spelled out in the bylaws for both the board meetings and committee meetings. Really has to be in there.
I don't have any problem having it in,
Can we simply add the language that Liz is suggesting?
here, I'll introduce it through the motion, or can we put it in the
Just
housekeeping?
change the language. You haven't voted on
Agenda.
anything. Just insert the new language that she's suggesting.
All right, so the new language would be that we're removing the administrative committee. The president sets the agenda, which is redundant with Robert's rules. The vice president no longer maintains oversight.
Wait, we're just on president.
What's that?
We're just on president.
No, we're gonna vote for all of this whole section 2 at once.
But we're adding.
I said I was addressing just the president.
Yeah, we just want to add the bullet point that Liz is suggesting, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is repeated again?
The president sets the agenda for board meetings.
And that should be under president as a bullet, right, Liz?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So under the president bullet, we're reiterating what's in Robert's rules, which is that the president sets the agenda.
Correct.
The president, we're removing the administrative committee language, removing the oversight language from Part B, vice president, removing the administrative language from Part B, secretary, and removing the receives and logs all submissions, Part C, secretary. I so move.
Okay, I wasn't done.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just did president.
Okay.
Vice president. You do want ensures that regularly scheduled committee meetings are not held simultaneously. Somebody should be doing this. It was assigned to the vice president. Now, if not the vice president, who?
That's true.
So you're saying that what we don't want are multiple committee meetings on the same date, Liz? Is that
right? You don't want a conflict because many people interested in the community want to attend various committee meetings. And if they're at the same time, they can't.
Should that be the vice president or the secretary?
Well, it was
What
always
else
the
does
vice
the vice president have to do?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't in the bylaws to begin with, but it is already in standing rules. So I don't think this needs to be added to our bylaws.
So what is the language you want to insert, Liz?
Okay, a bullet ensures that regularly scheduled committee meetings are not held simultaneously.
Can we add that, Ted?
And I
Sure, we
move
can
that
add
that
that.
becomes part of the changes.
Okay, so that'll be part of the bullet. And Liz,
The
you have
bullet.
that language? You have that language?
I have it written, yes.
Okay, so
And Liz,
now
can you
we're gonna move the secretary now?
Yeah, let's
And
go to the secretary.
I'm not done.
Okay.
Overseeing these committees is a good function for the vice president. As I said, what else has he got to do? But there is a requirement from Dunn that people have to take some kind of training. Who's going to make sure they've done it?
Isn't that the responsibility of Dunn to monitor that?
No.
Exactly.
God. Dunn says do this stuff.
Right.
And then if they catch that you haven't done it, then you pay for it. They don't do any kind of regulation checking or any of that kind of stuff.
Should their job be memorialized in our bylaws is my question, I guess.
It's not Dunn's job. Dunn said, make sure this happens.
Well, then
I think that
And
regulating
that's why,
state policy is their job.
And it's not in the cornerstone training at all as a requirement. And usually we had the retreats. That was our responsibility. And that's where we got the training. And we had a great attendance on the retreats.
What is the language you want to suggest, Liz?
my comment on this is to just keep it. It's a good thing for the beep to do.
Does anyone have a problem with that?
Somebody has to do it.
It just seems like it's more
Somebody has to
housekeeping.
do what?
Liz's language is that, just repeat the language, Liz.
Okay. First was adding a bullet. Ensures that regularly scheduled committee meetings are not held simultaneously.
Okay.
Second thing, a bullet, exactly what it has been deleted. At least I don't understand the yellow. What in the world is the yellow?
Good question. But I actually, I think that it makes sense for the vice president not to be overly prescribed in what they do, because their job here, is to perform the duties delegated by the president. And this isn't anyone's full-time job. This is an unpaid volunteer advisory council. And I think it makes sense to have an executive officer who is selected by the board, who can support the president in their tasks, so that they can be free. They can both be free to be able to volunteer, so that this isn't a job that is only accessible to folks who have the time or money to be able to participate in this process. And the more that we try to turn our board officers into state and city regulators, when there are already state and city regulators who are paid to do these jobs, then I think that actually makes these jobs and these positions in the community less accessible to the public. And, if done, and the city and the state, if they're not going to be accountable themselves, I think that's on them. I think that's why I still think, it makes sense, things like you're saying, we shouldn't be doing, having meetings at the same time, which, is in our standing rules as it is. But to try to turn an unpaid volunteer into a state or city regulator, I don't think that's fair to the people who want to participate in this council.
Can you live with that, Liz? Or
Currently, the secretary is responsible for taking attendance at board meetings and tracking the comings and goings. And also tracking when these trainings expire. The trainings, I believe, are good for 1 year, not for an entire administration.
No, 2 years.
Oh, they're good for.
Some are.
Okay.
Yes, they're usually 2 years.
Okay, then you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, I can live without what's in yellow and red. I cannot live without making sure they don't overbook the same day.
Okay.
So
I like that.
does that work for everybody?
So Nick, do you want to make the motion, or Liz, would you like to make the motion?
I did make
Who
a
would like to
motion.
make a motion?
I'll second Liz's motion.
Okay. So to reiterate, what we're voting on is the president no longer has to do with the administrative committee. The president sets the board agenda. The vice president ensures that no two committee meetings are booked at the same time. The vice president no longer maintains oversight of the standing and ad hoc committees to ensure compliance with Brown Act done and the bonk policy. The secretary no longer is related to the administrative committee, and the secretary no longer receives and logs all submissions of correspondence to the VNC and refers them to the top appropriate officers, as that was addressed in the previous section that we just talked about with the outreach committee.
And we're making no changes on treasurer, right?
Okay,
no changes on treasurer.
Back up to secretary. Okay, I agree with the crossouts. I want to add one bullet that says monitors member attendance at regularly scheduled board meetings. Because
they're
that's
already
Is that in there already?
I thought that was already. Is that just that's in the standing rules, but not the bylaws? Well, that's part of this, Liz.
Already mentioned in the bylaws somewhere.
Yeah, this is already in there.
How about this? Responsible for producing accurate minutes and attendance records of board members, or something to that effect.
That is already part of accurate minutes based off of bonk policy. So that part of the in accordance with bonk policy is that they have to do the attendance.
That's not part of bonk policy.
To track attendance in the minutes?
No.
We can easily insert board member attendance. I mean, that's
can I mention the next one?
Sure. They did it all at once.
I would also like a bullet that says posts agendas, supporting documents, and minutes of board meetings. Somebody has to do it, and it should be identified who has that responsibility.
Okay.
So we could add that language as well as the attendance language, right?
And now I'm done with the 4 that are listed.
And what about treasurer?
I don't have any comments about treasurer.
Okay, so to reiterate, secretary.
I haven't finished. Area reps. What is it they do?
So, Liz, that's not in this section. This is officers.
Well,
we're just doing the executive officers at this point, Liz.
This is just executive officers.
Nowhere do you talk about responsibility of other offices.
That doesn't belong in this section. This is the officers section.
We're just doing president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer for now. That's my understanding.
And these are the other officer responsibilities.
This is just for the executive officers, which have a different definition. Because we get to this next section, which also refers to
every office that has unique responsibilities.
This is not germane to this section.
We're just voting on this section, Liz. We're going to get to the other officers.
It's not in here. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Is there anything under executive offices that needs to be added? Is that what you're saying? I'm just a little confused.
What I'm saying is we went from having descriptions of 8 different flavors of officers down to 4.
Not in this section, though. This is just the executive officers, and these are referenced throughout the document.
My understanding is that the language changes are just for the executive officers at this time.
Yes.
president, the vice president, the treasurer, and the secretary. We're making no changes on the treasurer. We've made some
Your
language changes.
homework is, then tell me what section it goes in.
Okay, but not right now, because right now we're talking about executive officers, but I'm happy to have
You
this
intend to finish tonight?
not at this rate.
Okay. Then it will not be finished tonight.
Well, we're voting on the executive officers, correct?
That's fine.
Article. Ted, can you scroll back? You got Article 6. I mean,
That's the article we're on still.
okay.
Article 6.
We're on Article 6.
Which is executive officers. And there are only 4 executive officers. There have only ever been 4 executive officers.
We have all the language changes that are proposed by Liz and the bullet insertions. You have that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then all that's left to do is call the roll.
Well, no, we have to reiterate. So
I move to
there's
table
what we're voting
this
on.
until, I move to table this
For what reason?
until your
No,
part comes up.
There's no second. We're going to move on. So
You didn't
the
even wait for it
motion
to
is-
second. That's hilarious. Okay.
1 second, then we're gonna move on. The motion is that the president, we're striking out the language on administrative committee and sets the agenda for administrative committee. We're adding the bullet point that the president sets the agenda for the board meetings. The president, we're striking the language from maintaining oversight of the standing and ad hoc committees to ensure compliance with the Brown Act. We're adding the bullet point that the vice president is responsible for making sure that there aren't meetings booked at the same time of committees.
Right.
We're striking the secretary language of the administrative committee, but we're adding the language that they are responsible for producing accurate minutes and attendance of the board, and that the secretary is responsible for posting the agenda in minutes and supporting documents. And then we're striking the language that they're receiving and log all submissions and correspondence to the VNC and refers them to the appropriate officers within 7 days. Now we can.
Who does
call
that, by the way?
The roll.
Say that again, Liz. I don't think he
We
heard.
covered in the previous section. I'm calling the roll now. Liz.
Receives and
yes
logs
or no?
all the correspondence. Who does it?
That's in the previous section. All right, so I'm calling the roll. Liz, do you vote? How do you vote?
I'll vote yes.
Nick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lydia, how do you vote?
No, 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 no.
Yolanda, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, and the motion passes.
Just a point of order. Are you taking the minutes? Are you the roll calls on these, Ted?
I am.
Okay.
Minutes of this
And
meeting?
Ted, are you abstaining or are you voting yes?
I'm abstaining. in this
Okay.
case.
I'm sorry, I could not hear you.
He said he abstained, so the vote
abstaining.
was 3, 1, and 1. 3 yeses,
Got it.
1 no, and 1 abstention.
Got it.
All right, so the next section, this is for selecting the executive officers described in section 1, the section that we were just at. In this section, this is to change with the new board composition, where the president is selected by the stakeholders, but the other executive officers are selected by the board from the at-large board members. So the at-large board member, the other 3 executive officers, the vice president, secretary, and treasurer, are selected by a majority vote of the board members present and voting. So the difference here is as a countermeasure, as a counterweight, a check and balance to this president who is selected by the stakeholders and now has this new authority of setting the agenda. You can't do that course, he has to work now with this set of 3 other executive officers who are selected by the rest of the board, who is chosen from the members voted in by the stakeholders. So with that, I want to take public comment. And it's still with us. Let's see. Erica, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
I honestly don't know how you possibly could consider that this is a realistic examination by stakeholders as to all these changes that are being proposed that are very big changes. I'm not saying they're good or bad changes. They're very dramatic changes. And I mean, how many people are even at this meeting right now? I can't see how many they are, but I don't think it's more than a few, or maybe I think it's less than 20. And I really feel like these large, monumental changes are significant and really should be examined and weighed in on by many, many people, because we're supposed to be here representing stakeholders. And the reality is we're not representing stakeholders if they don't have a voice here. And even maybe they're going to all agree that they want to change everything or not. I really don't know. But I think we're doing a disservice by the way we're presenting these things and also presenting them in these big blocks. I mean, yeah, I just don't.
Erica. Helen, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Yeah, my question, Ted, is to you. You said that those eligible to run for the VP secretary and treasurer, you first said it was the at-large people. The at-large are not those 4 neighborhood director, whatever, block captains. I don't know what they are. But those 4 people don't seem to be eligible to run for these positions. So that's not very clear how you're wording that or how you're explaining it. And then I hope you realize that, for instance, in the treasurer's case, yes, people could take their training ahead of time so they could vote, but the treasurer has to take extra training. And until they take that training, the funds are not going to be released by the city. You aren't going to be able to file your admin packet. You're not going to have access to funding probably until somewhere in the second month by, that second board meeting. So, hey, good luck with this mess.
Thank you, Helen. Lisa Redmond, you have the floor for 1 minute.
Yes, everything Helen said, and I think she was being generous to say 2 months, but it probably be more likely than 3 months. So you would be stalled in any kind of board business. What I'm seeing here, the problem is you're trying to do this all in one fell swoop without consideration of stakeholders and what the board members might do, because what if, doesn't seem like there's any consideration that what if the board members don't want to go along with the plan to reduce the size of the size of the board, but yet you're changing all these other parts too. You're so much of the bylaws, one thing is dependent upon another thing, and you're changing it all in one fell swoop as though everything is all going to be accepted, and it's quite possible it won't. So maybe you might need to look at things a little more minutely and independently.
Thank you, Lisa. Robin, you have the floor for 1 minute.
Hi, thank you, Ted. I agree with Lisa. I think maybe this needs to be organized sort of by concept, because it's hard to do one sentence or paragraph when it relates to the one on the next page or 2 pages ago or whatever. Also, I'm against this change. I think the one you're talking about is having the officers voted in from those who won in the election and are at-large officers, because a lot of those positions are a lot of work and they require skills that not everyone has. And what if someone in those at-large positions isn't interested? Maybe you can't find someone within those elected who want to be a treasurer. It's a lot of work and you have to be trained and it's not easy. I know I've done it. Same with secretary, a lot of work. And so they may just want to stay at large. So then what do? Not everyone wants to make that kind of commitment or has those skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Ian, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Yeah, I would concur. You're making a whole ton of changes without adequate consultation of the community. 3, 1, and 1, or 2, 1, and 1 is not consulting the community on these. You're breaking things that worked and not fixing what needed to be fixed. Last year they had a pretty good cut at changing things so that people are better represented, not less represented, and have more influence, more power as stakeholders. And I think it was just a few people on the board that prevented that. But you're not looking at any of that. You're streamlining, which is a problem because ease of operation for fascism is not what we're looking for. And I know even Nick knows that. He organized a riot in the audience for a motion that wasn't high enough up on the agenda when the administrative committee put it there. So I think this is problematic. You're creating like a king position for the president.
And we have David. David, you have 1 minute. The floor is yours, David.
Thanks. I just want to point out that, at least from my point of view, the goal here is participation and empowerment of our community, and direct elections of all the officers is the best way to do that. Simply voting for a president diminishes the direct power of our community, and it seems like that's contrary to the very stated goals that I think we all share.
Thank you, David. Naomi, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
I am really not for this motion. I don't think that you're going to get more effectiveness and better operations by having fewer or loading positions or duties and responsibilities. I agree with what Robin said, and also the last speaker, David. The neighborhood council is supposed to be representative of the community, and you get that by having positions available for people to state their interest in it and to apply for those positions so that that interest can be covered if they are in fact elected to the positions. I am not in favor of the decreasing the numbers of council members, because that's not the most effective way to do it. And that's not being inclusive of the community and making sure that you're providing services and involving the community in the work of the neighborhood council. And that's the purpose of it.
Thank you, Naomi. All right, we'll move to board committee discussion. Elizabeth, your hand is up.
Yes. Where it says a plurality shall be sufficient to elect unless the selection procedures direct otherwise. These are the bylaws. There shouldn't be an unless. It should be, this is the way it's going to go.
That's been crossed out. The selection, the reading would be: the selection shall be by majority vote of the board members present and voting. The executive officer seats shall be filled by a majority vote of the elected board members. Well, you look at the screen, I've zoomed in on it. This gold text kind of blends in. So the full reading of the Section 3 selection of officers says: executive officers described in Section 1, except the president, shall be selected by the board from among the at-large board members at the first board meeting following the election. Selection shall be by majority vote of the board members present and voting. Executive officer seats shall be filled by a majority vote of the elected board members. Actually, is that just that's redundant, isn't it? It should be that's redundant. That should be crossed out too. So then to clarify that means not definitely not. This is the same document that was uploaded before, so I think we just.
Because what I'm looking at is your red markup, and I used MS Word.
Are you looking for something else?
Yeah, exactly. We can't open it. It should be here.
It should be there.
It's not in the Word.
Okay, if there isn't an unless, I'm fine.
Yeah, there's no unless.
Okay.
Do we have further committee comment?
Yeah, I'm concerned, someone in the audience brought it up in terms of the two positions that take a lot of responsibility are the secretary and the treasurer. I mean, what if somebody doesn't want to be the secretary or the treasurer? I mean, that's a legitimate thing to think about. I don't know how much time it entails. I'm imagining 10 or 15 hours a week, probably, for anyone to do those two roles. So I am concerned that if we don't have, I mean, if people want to be the treasurer, they're going to run for treasurer, and we'll have an election. In the last election, I think we had 3 candidates. For secretary, I think we had 2 or 3 candidates. I just don't know how we can just deal with an election day. In other words, the stakeholders will decide. Now, if you want to make the vice president amongst that I think is fine, because to be honest with you, you could probably make the case to abolish the position of vice president, because the only role it plays is if the president resigns. So as we're in right now, that's the role. But I am concerned about the secretary and the treasurer that we have people that are running that want to do that job, and the best way to do it is to keep it directly elected. That's just I wanted to bring this to everyone's. I wanted to hear everyone's opinion on this, because I'm just concerned that we're going to. What I don't want to do with the bylaws is complicate things. I want to make them easy. So I think Helen brought up the notion that, what if we don't have anyone else to be treasurer? I mean, it's a thankless job. So as is the secretary. And we've been blessed in the past with having what I believe are very good secretaries. We've had some great secretaries in the past. Helen Stotler comes to mind, and some others. But all right, I know, Liz, everybody can't agree on that. But you understand what I'm saying, I think.
Make a
So
motion.
I'm just open to the rest of the board what you think about the treasurer. Does this make things better, or does it complicate it? That's my only. That's the discussion I'd like to have.
It sounds like Lydia has a comment.
I
Lydia?
was going to ask you to make a motion, Nick.
Well, I want to hear what everyone thinks.
Everyone can have a chance to speak once. Lydia, would you like to speak?
I think one of the biggest problems about the treasurer, not only is it thankless, is the fact that even someone like Outreach, who does a tremendous job of bringing us delicious foods and things like that, that we're fast losing gratitude. And I think that it's very hard to not be transparent about treasurer's reports and expenditures and holding all the rules to a T on applications for funding and support from the neighborhood council. So if it ain't broke, why are we trying to fix something that's not broke? And I agree, drum roll, I agree with Nick.
Yolanda, do you have a comment on this? You are muted, by the way, so we can't hear you if you are speaking.
Oh, there. Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can hear you now.
Okay, very good. One of the things that not only this neighborhood council is having and other neighborhood council is because the population has changed as well. And some of the young people that live in our neighborhood have no idea who we are and what we are all about unless they really have an issue that they are concerned with. And that's when they start getting involved. That's how we all got involved in. And one of the things is to get people to engage into the neighborhood council. And even other neighborhood councils are shortening their board as well in order to entice people to be involved with the neighborhood council movement. One of the things that we've been very lucky that we've all been committed throughout the 2 years or the 4 years that we've all been part of it. Our attendance has been excellent, in my opinion, except for a couple. But in all the 21, our attendance is absolutely great. The thing is that who takes over if the president gets sick? We got to have a vice president, in my opinion. And because in that position, if we have somebody who really gets sick, who takes over the treasurer? The secretary or the treasurer? Now, in other neighborhood councils, they have paid secretaries and they have paid treasurers, which has been allowed by Dunn in the past. We used to have a paid secretary who was excellent in taking minutes. That's when Mike Newhouse and Linda Lux were on board. But that's something we have to take in consideration. Who's going to come in, because people don't want to take this responsibility. And in my opinion, Dunn has really put on more responsibility on us than what we are supposed to be. We're not supposed to be. Bob Gelfand made a very interesting case. We're not supposed to be the city. We are supposed to be the communities. And we're supposed to be making decisions for what is really our needs. And every community is different. But I'm in agreement with Bob Gelfand, who writes in the City Watch. Why is the city trying to make us who they want us to be?
Mhm.
So let's take that in consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yolanda. I think you make a really good point and really good suggestion. Because what I'm trying to do here when I made this suggestion, and I'm not tied to any of this. These are just ideas floating in my head, trying to put them all together into one coherent picture. And what I really want is to give the future board, in 2027, more freedom to represent themselves. That board elected by the stakeholders, sees it at best. And this is why I said there's a president who's elected by stakeholders. These other executive officers are also elected by the stakeholders, but from the at-large board members, so that there's, a check and balance to this more flexible system. But Yolanda is absolutely right that there may be, like other people have suggested, there may be a situation where no one wants to actually do the duties of the treasurer or the secretary. But that is also why we have a budget of $25,000 a year. And if that's what that future VNC council decides, they could spend that money to perform those duties because they are community advisors and representatives who are doing this part-time, volunteer. This is not a full-time job. They're not getting paid. They're not doing the work of the city. Then again, it may be a selling point for one of these future candidates because there are fewer seats. I hope there will be more democratic competition for those seats that are there. And that may be a strong selling point for one of those candidates or many of those candidates that, hey, by running, I'm going to be able to save the council money because I'm going to be able to take those duties on. I'm going to be able to be a good treasurer. I'm going to be able to be a good secretary. But we're leaving the answer in the hands of the stakeholders with this format rather than in the hands of the city. And I think that anyone who can get through all of these the chicken scratch of changes I made here, and I admit they're not perfect. There's plenty of errors and dumb ideas, and I take responsibility for all of those. But the overriding theme that I want to communicate here is that I want the future VNC to have more flexibility and freedom to represent the community and to be able to advise the city on behalf of the community as they see fit and how the stakeholders who elected them see fit rather than how the city sees fit. So, I know there's ways that we've always done it, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. And all I'm saying is maybe we give the voters and those future board members the chance to come together to work in collaboration with each other to figure out how can they best represent the community in a way that doesn't restrict access to these positions only to the people who can afford to take on one of these unpaid jobs, the people who can afford to have the time to do one of these unpaid jobs, that this can really be the voice of the community. And that's my spiel on this.
And if I may bring something on board too, which people don't take into consideration, we have bills, a lot of bills that were passed on January. That affects the way communities are supposed to be function. And number two, when we had a parliamentarian, we ran a good neighborhood council. We didn't have a parliamentarian this time. And I think that's where we really failed. And that's very important. So that's something we need to take in consideration is the way our state is structured, the way our city is structured. That has an effect on which people have to make decisions. And sometimes that has really put us into the position why we started forming the neighborhood councils. But we have a lot of challenges as human beings and as people who live and work and own property. That's a big thing that we're going to be having, and that's something we're going to have to face. That's what I just wanted to say.
The question before us is, should we keep...
Wait, Nick, I see that Liz has a hand up. I want to make sure that we give Liz a chance to speak.
Yes. My opinion regarding should all 4 executive officers be elected by the stakeholders, that's my personal preference. On the other hand, I know a lot of, or at least several neighborhood councils do it exactly this way. They don't, the stakeholders vote for neighborhood council person. And then when they get together among the board members, they say, okay, this person can be this, that person can be that, however they want to do it. They can select them, they can appoint, whatever. I really don't care. I'm not opposed to change. I think it's worth a try. Right before Helen Fallon became our treasurer, we had a person named Jay Handel, and he became our treasurer. He bailed us out. His predecessor resigned. You can't exist without a treasurer. That's a fact. So we can gamble and say there's bound to be somebody in that group capable and willing to be treasurer. It's a gamble.
How many people are married to the notion?
Let me just to follow up on this.
Let me just make my point. How many people have no problem with directly electing, at the very least, the president, the treasurer, and the secretary? I mean, these positions, we were blessed with Hugh Harrison for years. I mean, how long was Hugh Harrison the treasurer? 10 years?
Yes.
So,
no, 15.
You hope you get the best, but if you leave it just into the hands of the board, people run for specific offices. They have specific skill sets, and they want to run for those specific. I just don't want to complicate this. We're taking a heavy bite at the apple here. I don't want to have the next board where someone says, "Well, that's a lot of work. I don't want to do that." Because unfortunately, let me just finish what I'm saying. You got 21 members right now, and quite frankly, half of them don't do anything.
That's right.
So by reducing the board is a good thing, but but by not directly electing some people, I think is really problematic. My opinion is that we directly elect the treasurer and the secretary, at the very least. That's just my feeling on it.
So Nick, you don't like Yolanda's idea that in that situation, that would be money coming out of the budget to do.
Well, I don't know how it affect, every neighborhood councilor gets the same amount of money, so I don't know how financially it impacts anything. This is just a question of selection. It's a question of, are we going to directly elect or not directly elect? I mean, I think we could potentially are mucking up the waters by not having a competitive race for treasurer, by not having a competitive race for secretary, because these jobs are thankless. And so you want those people to run.
So I'm not opposed to any of this. The one counterpoint that I would make, the situation to consider that I would like to consider here is if we have these three people, these executive board members, how about this?
And just as an added point too, when you look at the national level, right? We don't vote for vice president. We vote for president, and the president picks his running mate. So in this regard, if the board picked the vice president, I don't see that as a problem, someone wanting to be the vice president. But these other two positions are just, there is specific work that has to be done. It can't be ignored.
Here's my thinking about it, is that this kind of gets back to the discussion about you doing city jobs, for instance, in the regulations, that by giving the flexibility to this future board to decide how they're going to fulfill these responsibilities, the way I see it is that means that you have three more candidates in the election who can run based off of the issues that they care about and represent, versus three people who are running to perform special vocations. Because those vocations aren't actually representing any issues that are of a concern to the community. The different, issues are affecting us.
I mean, you're right, but someone's got to make the sausage. And treasurers have to make the sausage, and secretaries have to take the minutes, and this stuff has to be done.
Yeah.
And that's just the function. When you have a 21-member board, you can get away with that. But if you have a smaller board, then these specific tasks, in my opinion, we can't leave it to chance. And, I was around when we had that the treasurer who replaced Hugh Harrison when he ran. I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into. I knew him personally. And, he was overwhelmed by the amount of work that he had to do.
Yeah.
And that's why he quit. I mean, not naming names, he was a nice guy, but, that's what I'm concerned about. We could disagree to disagree on a multitude of issues.
I don't disagree with you on any of it. It's a very discussion. It sounds like, Liz, you're kind of on the same page here. Is that right?
Oh, I really don't care. I'm worth the gamble. I can vote for the gamble.
And just keep in mind one thing.
I think voting for.
Let's finish.
Go ahead.
I think voting for the specific offices will probably work better.
Mm-hmm.
But if people want to try something different, as long as you don't mention Mar Vista in my presence, you're good.
Lydia, you mind weighing in one more time? I'd like to hear from you.
I was just waiting for Nick to make a motion because I actually agree with him. I think I would like to continue to vote for vice president. That's the only difference.
Vice president, secretary, and treasurer.
President, but of course, President, just all of it, because we're a neighborhood. Where's the neighborhood in all of this? This is kind of the cart before the horse.
All right, but yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that I like the way that Liz put it, which is that you made the way that we're already doing that, feels
But
like
here's the other consideration.
and the other one is a bigger gamble. And I think for that reason, I say, yeah, let's scrap it. Let's keep it as it is, all four as directly elected by stakeholders. And then in our election page, those three are gonna come out of the out of the at-large members, and they're gonna go back to the director elected, and
Right.
making that total membership at 13.
And just one thing to consider, we're restructuring this thing, right? And a lot of people are hesitant for change of any kind. So if we reduce the change, the possibility of getting this whole thing passed by the board, and remember, you need a 2/3 vote,
Right.
which is hard to get anyway. I mean, a 2/3 vote in Venice is like, good luck. So, I think it's a good idea to remove this from what we're doing.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just move on to the next section then. We don't have to do anything there.
Good. Yeah.
All right.
Excuse me,
So
what was decided about this section?
we're just gonna leave it as it is.
We're gonna leave it as it is.
We'll just
Oh,
leave
for the
four-
gamble. Is that
four-
correct?
No gamble, just the four directly
gamble.
elected.
Excuse me?
No gamble, just the four positions are all executive officer positions elected by stakeholders as it is now.
Oh, when you said leave it as it is, I thought you meant according to the document.
No, sorry. I meant
No.
not making any changes to the bylaws on that. Just leaving it so that each one is directed by the stakeholders. Each position, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer are all directly elected by the stakeholders. They all appear on the ballot.
We're just gonna play with house money here, Liz.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to section 7. Now, I know in this document, I'd kind of crossed them all out. But what I'm gonna suggest here is that the only one that we cross out is the administrative committee, for the reasons we discussed before, and that budget and finance just has a simple some rewording here, which is that before we had before budget and finance said chaired by treasurer, oversees and administers all VNC financial matters, including systems of financial accountability as required by the Department of the City and the City of Los Angeles, vets all neighborhood purpose grants, and reviews all spending applications and identifies which budget line items they will come from. And what the new language here will say is chaired by treasurer, oversees and administers all VNC financial matters expenditures, including system of financial accountability as required by the Department of the City of Los Angeles, vets all neighborhood grants for accuracy and compliance, reviews all spending requests, and identifies which budget line items they come from. So we are.
I just have a question.
Yes.
Does the president of this Venice Neighborhood Council serve as an ex officio member of all committees?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I am not suggesting here, as in the document, that we cut all of the other committees. Just leave them as it already is in the bylaws, but remove this administrative committee and have this clarified language on the budget and finance committee, as was suggested by our current treasurer, Helen Fallon.
So we're gonna make a motion now to put it out to public comment?
Yes, so now we're gonna ask for public comment. So this is on only striking the administrative committee and on clarifying the language around the budget and finance committee.
Do we need a motion in a second? I'll make the motion. Okay, you second, okay,
I'll
fine.
second it.
I'll second it.
So the motion is to clarify the Budget and Finance Committee language as suggested by our current treasurer, Ellen Fallon, and to strike the Administrative Committee. And with that, I'm going to go to public comment. Ian, if you're ready, you have the floor. You look like you're muted, though.
Can you hear
Ian?
me?
There we go. I hear you now.
Yeah. Okay, so are you transferring? I can't understand what you're saying. Are you saying that the treasurer's job is now being handed to a committee?
No. It was just clarifying language from our current treasurer, but no structural changes.
Okay, well, if it's immaterial and just clarifying language, I have no problem with it. But yeah, I appreciate that you guys dropped the last wholesale changes. I don't think that the change is good for change's sake. I think we need to be changing things so that people have more input and more reason to get involved. And less representation doesn't do that. I think Venice is a diverse community. More likely, what's going to happen is you're going to have people with an axe to grind getting more of their way, but not what people in Venice think. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. I tend to agree. Helen, you have the floor and you have 1 minute. It looks like you might be. There we go.
I don't think we changed anything in that. That language wasn't what I sent you. I mean, I'd appreciate if you go back and look at what I emailed you about some minor tweaks to the language in the bylaws, because I don't think it was in that section. I think that section was not changed at all. I haven't compared it, but I don't think there was anything redlined in there or anything added. So if you'd please review what I sent you, because I did line it out. I did send you the red line copy, and it was, I'd appreciate if that was incorporated rather than saying that this was what we asked for, because this isn't the change I asked for. And I don't know what the yellow orange stuff is that if it's not redlined, I don't know why it's in a different color. So maybe you want to clean that up too. And by the way, I want an accolade. Apparently treasurers are really important and I've been doing a terrific job. So, hey, I'll thank myself.
Thank you, Helen. And I'll go back and make sure that we got the changes that you suggested. Robin, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
I just want to say that I think Helen is the best treasurer VNC has ever had. And I know that's not a point to your motion, but I'm confused as to what we're commenting on. Is it just the budget committee thing, or is it making all the other committees no longer standing committees?
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, no, the only substantive change we're stressing here is striking the Administrative Committee. And we're going to make sure that Helen's language is in there. And I'll double check on that. Zoom user Sarah, you have the floor. You have 1 minute. Sarah, I think you're muted. Sarah, are you there? Sarah may have gone AFK. See if she comes back. In the meantime, Erica, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Hi there. I'm pleasantly surprised that we are embracing something that is a little more. It's working, and I will say this: as far as the Treasury situation goes, not only is Helen an excellent treasurer, but the last treasurer that they did have before I was on the board, I provided services for the VNC that cost $600. And it took me 6 months to be reimbursed and paid for my invoices that were submitted over and over. So it is really important that we do have a treasurer that not only does the books properly, but gets people paid right away. And I will say she cracks the whip on me because I have to provide a lot of payments and things and receipts, and she's very good at collecting that. But I also, though, do want to say that I don't know if it is in the best interest of the community to have a solo person, which would be the president, set the agenda only. I think that the administrative committee was created for a reason. I think it is a checks and balance, and it does offer a broader view. And depending upon who the personality is of the person you have as a president, it might not be in the best interest of the community to be a singular view that can control everything that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Now just a second, I am going to open up the exact language that Helen sent, just so we can make sure that we got it right. Let's see if it came here through for me.
Ted,
Yep.
how much longer are we going to continue, hon? It's already 8:05.
All right, let's see.
What if we go to 9?
I can't. I have to jump on another Zoom. It's not
How
gonna.
about 8:30? How about
Yeah,
8:30?
can we do
I
8:30?
no, I can't, and it's not going to break quorum. But it said 6 to 8 on our agenda. So
How much more do we have left to cover tonight?
A lot.
Let's see.
we have 3 Zoom. We have 3 speakers still. Well, they have their hands up. I don't know that they spoke.
Oh, we did have agenda setting in here. We didn't need to go through all that. That was on section 2 over here. All right, let's skip to I think the final, let's see, this Article 10, Section 2, which is the governing board structure and voting. Sorry, we're going to do that. That'll be the last item after we finish what we're doing now. So
Yeah, I have to vote for someone to receive support for emergency housing, so I have to bail. But you have a Zoom user, you have Sarah, and I don't know if Ian spoke, and you have Robin. They still have their hands up.
I think they did all speak. Am I wrong?
We all spoke. Public
Sarah.
comment.
Sarah couldn't unmute for some reason.
Yeah, I'm happy to give Sarah another chance here. Let's see. Sarah, are you there now? Sarah? Sarah? Sarah's not there.
So we need to take a final vote now. We had public comment. We're taking a final vote on the administrative committee.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Can you call the
That's
roll?
right. Well, we haven't had a committee comment, if the committee would like to comment.
Liz has got her hand up.
Oh, Liz, sorry.
I'm confused. What I have down is to add the rules and elections and the budget and finance committee as they appear in yellow, and to retain all of the other committees, the write-up on all the other committees with the exception of AdCom. Do I?
Yeah.
Correctly?
I think, so nothing should change about the rules committee. The only committee we're striking is the administrative committee. And then I just shared my screen. Let me zoom in on this so it's larger. We can make sure that we have Helen's language correct here. Maybe can someone else compare? This was the language that Helen proposed. was Budget and Finance Committee chaired by Treasurer, oversees and administers all VNC financial matters and expenditures. Is that word in there?
Yes.
That's what I have.
We already had that. Okay, so I think this is what Helen suggested, including system of financial accountability as required by the Department in the City of Los Angeles, vets all neighborhood grants for accuracy and compliance. This was the other language she added, for accuracy and compliance, reviews all spending requests and identifies which budget line items they will come from. So yeah, that is the language, Helen, that you suggested. So those are the two changes. We're inserting Helen's language, and we're removing the administrative committee from the existing bylaws, and all of the other changes that you see here, we are ignoring.
Call the roll.
The only changes we're making to the bylaws are those two.
And can we alphabetize them, maybe?
No, like re-alphabetize them? Yes.
Can they appear alphabetized?
Yes, they absolutely may appear alphabetized.
Thank you. That would be
call the roll.
I will second it, and let's call the roll. Liz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Nick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yolanda, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I will vote yes too. We're unanimous.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to go to our final section here, which is the exciting one of governing board structure and voting. Now, we've already made the three changes to this in our last discussion, which is that three of these 8 community members are going to go back to being directly voted for. So all, like it is already, the 4 executive officers will all be voted in by stakeholders: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. That means instead of 8 community members elected at large by the stakeholders, there would be 5 to maintain that 13 total that we approved in the last section. We are adding the 4 district chairs. And each person who votes or owns real property shall be entitled to cast the votes as follows. So 1 for president, 1 for vice president, 1 for secretary, 1 for treasurer, 1 for their respective district chair, and 4 votes for at-large community members.
For clarification, you said it was for property owners, huh?
No, it's all one. That's defined by them. We can't change what the definition of a stakeholder is.
Yeah.
What I have on my screen has to do with the Budget and Finance Committee. Where are you?
Oh, sorry, I have to share a new screen. Sorry.
Can you make it bigger? I have really old eyes.
You and I.
Let's see, I might be able to make it even bigger than that.
Okay.
That's good. That's good.
4 executives, 5 at large, 4 districts, correct?
Yes, there should be the president is elected at large by the non-community interest stakeholders. And we already decided that the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer will also still be elected at large by the non-community interest stakeholders.
Right.
Okay, community interest stakeholder and community interest at-large officer. I am really not clear on what in the world you're talking about. Is there or is there not going to be one seat designated for a community interest stakeholder?
Yeah, I think this is where we got tripped up last time, because I think this is contradictory to what was previously in the document. And I think what we should do is,
Previously in the document, there was one dedicated community interest seat. I'm real clear on that.
so that, all right, let's add them up. So we'd have 4 plus 5 is 9, plus another 4 districts would be 13. So if we have the community interest or officer would be 14. So we need to have, so what it should say is 4 at-large members, 4 executive officers, 4 district chairs, and 1 community interest one community interest member.
That would be
Elected
13.
by the community interest stakeholders. So that's the position that Sarah holds now. And that would mean that in the election, the stakeholders get to vote for all 4 executive officers. They get 1 vote for a district chair, the one that is respective to their district. They would get to cast 4 votes for the at-large community members. So for each 4 of the at-large community members, the voter gets one vote for each. So a voter gets to vote 4 times for an at-large community member and 1 vote for the community interest officer, unlike the way it is now, where they only get to vote for 1 at-large community member plus the community officer, and those were all scrambled together. Is that clear? So this means that between the at-large community members and the community interest officer, the voters actually get to cast 5 votes, 1 vote for each seat. So every seat now is elected by a stakeholder, and the stakeholder gets 1 vote for every seat.
And community interest stakeholders get to vote for whom?
The community interest stakeholders get to vote for the community interest member, the community, which is also the way that is now.
Okay.
But now those at-large members also get 1 vote for them.
Got it.
How does that sound?
So the board size is now 21 to
Sorry.
14.
No, there is one change on the community member position. So that's this language here, which is actually maybe that's not a change. I don't know if it's a change or not. I don't know at this point.
Yes, there is a change.
That the community interest member is elected by the community interest stakeholders and the stakeholders who live, working on real property.
So everyone votes for community interest now if you want to.
Right, they don't have, right, before, I think they could vote for it before, but before they had to choose. They were forced to choose because they only got 1 vote for at-large and the community interest officer, which wasn't fair to the position that Sarah ran for, because that meant that anyone who was a stakeholder, language isn't changed, anyone who was a stakeholder who works, and owns real property, in order to vote for Sarah, they had to sacrifice their vote for the at-large member. In this situation, they get to vote for Sarah and whoever's running against her, or whoever runs for that position, doesn't necessarily have to be Sarah. They get to vote for that position, and they get to vote for the at-large community members, and they get to vote for every at-large community member, not just one of the 13. So in this case, they get to vote 4 times for each of the 4 at-large community member seats, and they get to vote for the community interest member, and they get to vote for their district chair, and they get to vote for the 4 executive officer positions. So every single position.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we're voting for all 4 executive officers, Depending upon where you live geographically, you're voting for the one
That's right.
district officer. And then you're voting you can vote for up to 4 additional community officers.
Yeah, right.
And
then-
you can vote for the community interest officer.
That's right. So
Okay.
now there's a
Okay,
vote for
so
every
in
position.
comparison to, right now, we have a 21-member board, and even though we have 13 community officers, you only
it's
get to vote
community.
for one.
So yeah, but actually, so yeah, there are 14 because it's the 13 plus the
Right.
community interest officer, and you only got one vote for those 14 seats. Now you get one vote for every seat.
So you're basically, currently we're voting for 59% of the board, and
Yeah,
now we're
wonderful.
voting for a much higher percentage.
Let me
Yeah.
let me invite public comment here. Now that we've clarified that. Zoom user, Sarah, let's see if you're there. I would like to hear from you on this, Sarah. Sarah, unmute yourself, please. Sarah, we can't hear you. Okay, I think Sarah's still not there. I'm also going to make sure that maybe we can unraise her hand, so if she does come back, we'll know that she's actually back. Robin, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Okay. Again, I'm confused. So what we have in front of us isn't correct per se, because it's like it doesn't have in the voting section. It says 1 vote for president, 1 for your geographic person, and then all 4 at large. I thought we could also vote for the community interest officer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, that's true. So we're voting for all of it now.
So it's 7. Is the president? Okay. President, geographic, that's 2. 4 at large is 6, plus the community interest is 7. So now we have.
And the vice president, treasurer, and secretary.
So 10. You get 10 votes. There's just 3 districts that you're not voting for because you can only vote for your one district. You're voting for every other
Okay.
state.
That's great. That's a very good explanation. Thank you. Well, I certainly like the higher percentage. I don't necessarily agree with reducing the size, but if that's a given, it makes sense. I like the way you structured the voting. But again, I think it should be a larger board. I don't have a problem with the 21. We have like I said before, we have complex neighborhoods. If you're willing to expand it, I would do it in the geographic areas, and would be happy to work with one of you to try to set on those, because from a land use perspective, especially, these neighborhoods are very different and they have different issues, and it would be great to see them represented in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Stay tuned for my submission.
All right, Ian, you have the floor. I'll reset that timer for you. Let me know when you get unmuted.
Okay, I'm here. So what you're saying actually is not true. Community interest stakeholders were supposed to be the only people allowed to vote for the community interest stakeholder position. There was a mistake in the ballot this year in the most recent election, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. The Grassroots Menace Neighborhood Council, which was lauded by Dunn and Bonk as being incredibly successful and representing people well and all that, had basically a situation where you did not distinguish between community interests and those who live, own, or work property. People who work on the boardwalk don't get a paycheck. Therefore, they are community interests. What you're saying is you're going to let all these other folks vote for their one seat that they get to vote for. This is diluting their representation and making a one-size-fits-all majority vote to pack the board. And I don't see how this helps Venice adequately reflect its diversity, considering that we have 50, 60,000 people at the very least, and what percentage of those actually even involve themselves in this. This is a problem, and I don't appreciate it.
All right, Erica, you have the floor. You have 1 minute.
I'm really kind of wondering why nobody's noticing that the outreach chair, the communications chair, and the LUPIC chair are not being acknowledged. And the concern is, just like the treasurer, there's no way you could bring in just a random LUPIC person who does not have a skill set to manage all of those projects, and having that kind of knowledge about how land use works. And also communications and outreach are also positions that require a tremendous commitment of time, and also having certain skill sets or resources to be able to address those different things. I don't see people just randomly wanting to be chosen for that. And if so, that means how many people that are really at large out in the community really are going to be representatives? Like, those are gigantic groups that you have set up. It's only 4 sections. How is that supposed to work? I don't know. That's something I'm just throwing out there. Is anybody going to look at that? Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Ellen, you have the floor, and you have
I have
1
the
minute.
same observation. Previously in this document, you are saying that the at-large people are where you're going to be drawing, appointments, such as, I presume, although you left it in that other area, what we currently elect, the outreach, the LUPEC chair, communications. You've got 4 people that are going to be the only people available to fill that, because I'm still not sure what these district directors or whatever they are do. And I would comment on that those districts are immense. There's no relationship between neighborhoods, and that has to be, those structural changes have to be approved by Bonk. They're not going to be even done related. Bonk has to look at that. And you've missed a lot of the things that Bonk requires with structural changes and districts and neighborhood representation. There's a lot of moving pieces. You're not tying them all together. And you aren't even mentioning that our voting will be by self-certification. So anybody can vote in our election. Anybody can come in and say they're a voter. So
Thank you, Helen. David, you have the floor, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I actually would like to raise a very serious alarm about Section 4, which is the self-certification, the self-affirmation. In doing away with any requirement of supporting documentation, what you have essentially done is eliminated Venice and eliminated stakeholders. There is with no way to verify. You can have your friends in Schenectady and your parents in Albany all vote for you and simply file an affirmation, and it is unchallengeable. What you have done is taken Venice from Venice. This is extremely concerning. The people here should be voting for their representatives by just saying, look, we live in a Trumpian era. We live in a time where traditional things like, self-certification, we can trust everybody to do that, no longer exists. Verification is absolutely crucial. I would strongly object to Section 4, and I would urge you all to take a very close look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Naomi, you have the floor, and you have 1 minute.
I too am seriously concerned about the self-certification. To me, that makes no sense in terms of guaranteeing, validating, and verifying representation of the Venice community. I'm also concerned about the geographical locations, the 4 areas. Having been the chairperson of the ad hoc committee on the Venice Community Plan, we had 12 areas that we heard from on a weekly basis to hear the concerns and the input from all of these different areas. And it seems that 4 areas just does not give an adequate representation and diversity of the Venice community. We really do need to expand those geographical areas because Venice is just that diverse. And to get the representation that the Venice Neighborhood Council should be representing, we need to expand those geographical locations.
Thank you, Naomi. Kenya, you have the floor, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you. In the use of time, I would echo David as well as Naomi's sentiment in regards to self-certification. That is something we very much need to look at because anybody can say anything about being a stakeholder and what position they have in Venice. Aside from that, I think the district areas is a very logistic one, and it does greatly allow more input to pockets that are not represented. However, I do think it should be looked at to be expanded a bit. What goes on in East Venice doesn't necessarily affect me in the area that I live, but yet I'm still a Venice resident. So those two items I would very much like to see maybe amended or something to help bring upon greater conduciveness to Venice as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya. Yeah, no, we're not voting on the self-certification, and if everyone else here is fine with skipping that, I am too. I had already skipped over it.
So we're not changing the self-certification, right?
No, I mean, unless one of you wants to, rewind
All right.
over to it, I would fast forwarding over to.
I'll only make this comment. I lived here for 35 years. I've never been asked for ID when I went to a voting poll. The only time I've ever been asked for an ID is when I voted in a VNC election.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
my main concern with the way it is now is, it's another way where we make it harder to vote. Unfortunately,
the hard reality is that 435 people voted in the last election. It was a 75% drop off. That is not the issue. The issue isn't people running to Venice to vote in the Venice neighborhood elections. The problem is that the way the elections were set up, and that the city clerk has done nothing to take it off our hands. If the city clerk sent a ballot to every person in Venice to vote in the neighborhood council election, we'd have thousands of voters. It's as simple as that. We need the city clerk's cooperation to make sure that these elections are properly formatted and properly conducted.
What are you suggesting, Nick?
Nothing. I'm saying the certification process, leave it as it is, because at the end of the day, the city clerk is running the election anyway. They're running the elections now. We're not.
So you're
And
saying
they make it.
skip amending section 4.
Yeah, I
They're
would just
gonna
skip
wrap it
it.
up anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of how
Nick is right.
I think I agree with the others. It's not worth even fighting over. It sounds like there is at least general. This one time, at least, I didn't hear anyone saying that they don't want to be able to vote for every chair. So that's nice. I was hoping that would be an improvement.
I just wanted clarification.
Yes.
If we're voting for districts, then why do we have a community representative when you've already got a district representative? That makes it sort of, what is that community officer going to be doing? They have never in the past, no matter who it was, they have really never done anything in the contributing force here in Venice. That's my opinion. And we've done elections. Liz and I have done elections, and we've done excellent elections. But in that sense, I don't know. That's my opinion, anyways.
Thank you, Londa. Liz, you have a hand up?
Yes. I don't care about whether you require documentation or use self-affirmation. But what I've heard from day one is Venice people do not trust Venice people.
Mm-hmm. True.
They just
don't trust VNC people.
Okay. So there's that. So whichever is chosen is fine with me.
I'm fine to say that. What do you think, though, about the
I
voting
do have a
structure?
question. What happened to all the sections between selecting officers and voting? Did you just skip those?
I did. Because we
Why?
already covered the agenda setting, which is the president shall set the agenda. But
For
I think
board
that
meetings?
for the board meetings that we do, that needs to, these need to match up, the agenda setting and the presidential responsibility. But this is why I was saying that we shouldn't have been having the debate on the president setting the agenda as a bullet point, because it was already right here in the agenda setting of section, sorry, you guys can't see my screen right now, can you?
No.
Article 8, meetings, Article 8, Section 2, the president shall set the agenda for each council meeting. Let me share my screen. So Article 8, meetings, Section 2, agenda setting. The president shall set the agenda for each council meeting. This is what we already voted on.
There must be some mechanism defined that if the president refuses to put something on the agenda, the stakeholders have some kind of recourse.
The stakeholders or the other board members?
Excuse me?
The stakeholders or the other board members?
Stakeholders.
I would suggest we leave
They're
that.
the important people,
Okay.
right? And what you crossed out was that they can come up with a petition, have something put on the agenda.
Right, so you don't want to see that. Well, let's go. We'll come back to that. Let's cover this last one here on where we were at with the governing board structure and voting. That's a different issue. So we're not going to propose the self-verification through written self-affirmation, but we are going to vote on being able to vote for each of these positions. And that's what I would like to have a board comment on now, is this voting structure.
Okay, I'm good with that.
You good with that?
Yes.
All right, we call the vote. So the vote is on the governing board structure and voting. The changes that we're making is that there are 4 elected executive officer positions. You get 1 vote for each. You get 1 vote for the community interest officer. You get 1 vote for your district chair, and you get 4 votes, 1 for each of the at-large community members. Liz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Nick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Wanda, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, great. Now let's go back to the agenda setting. And so what Liz was saying is that we should maintain the paragraph on a petition signed by 60 stakeholders shall override the determination required that item be placed on the agenda of the VNC board. Totally okay with that. And that otherwise the president shall set the agenda for each council meeting. So the stakeholders still have the power by petition to force the matter onto the agenda.
I would like to make a comment on that. I'd like to lower the amount of signatures from 60 to 50.
I second that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 60 seems like it was high, and we never see it happen. But it all seems arbitrary to me, which is kind of why I got rid of it. But all right, so yeah, we're going to say we're going to only amend that it's from 60 to 50, and that the president shall set the agenda for each council meeting. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to invite public comment. So the public comment is on reducing the petition signers from 60 to 50, and the president shall set the agenda for each council meeting. All right, Ian, you're gonna have the floor first. You have 1 minute.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So 60 actually is probably not enough in a community as large as ours. And just because it gets on the agenda doesn't mean it's not going to be the last item on the agenda. So that seems kind of loose. I disagree with the president having the dictatorial authority to set the agenda, because you can put things you don't want to hear at the end of the agenda and never get to them, or put them in new business week after week, as we saw in the last meeting. This is problematic. 60 people is, what, like the hate group that Nick's part of, would probably be able to gather, no problem. But do we really want 60 people in a place of 60,000 or more to determine what's on the agenda? I think that's why you had an AdCom, and it made sense. And I don't know why the hell you broke it.
Thank you, Ian. Erica, you have 1 minute. The floor is yours.
I actually also, just from the point of stakeholders collecting signatures for a ballot, I know that there's other items and issues that have gone out in the neighborhood, and I've seen that it's usually at least 100. So I think that the 60, I don't think that's some crazy number. I think if the intent is to make it more accessible for people to get their issue onto the ballot, if that's what the intent is there, I don't know. I'm not sure if the 10 people less really telegraphs that. What are we really trying to do there is kind of my question. And I think that if the president has the sole control over the agenda, I think I think it's giving too much power to one person when it's a neighborhood council. The neighborhood council is supposed to be representative of the neighborhood, not of a person. I think the AdCom was what do you call it, like to prevent that from happening, from it being a singular view. Thanks.
Thanks, Erica. Helen, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Yeah, why did you cross out language related to the committees chairs setting their agendas? Because you've crossed out some language that who's going to be setting their agendas? The president too? I mean, going to have complete power over everything. And as far as the petitions go, frankly, if we're going to have the president deciding everything, I think we should significantly lower that number. Mar Vista's president sets the agenda, but they allow 10 stakeholders to bring a petition to the board, because that's what we're here for, stakeholders, not for the president to be pushing their personal point of view. And frankly, I look at what you're proposing here, and it's just basically an ability for a clique to take over and one person to control virtually everything. It's just, you've just crossed out everything related to any done bonk policies or whatever, and good luck getting this passed.
Thank you, Helen. Naomi, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Wow, this is a lot going on. And I think, again, if you have a larger increased number of representatives, then you can have more people petitioning, or more list, 100 people petitioning for something to be put on the agenda, but only if you have a greater representation at the geographical level, because people would be able to go to their geographical district person and state whatever their issue is, and perhaps have a better chance at having it put on the agenda, or at least heard before the neighborhood council. It just seems to me that there is a lot of concentration in the decision ability of one person, rather than having at least some process by which other council members can challenge the president's agenda if it doesn't seat well with how it's structured. I think that should at least be an option.
Thank you, Naomi. All right, committee comment. Liz, your hand is up.
Yes. For the paragraph that says petitions, if you have a meeting called by the majority of the board, how do you get a meeting called by the majority of the board without violating the Brown Act? Can't be done. Says a majority of the board got together and decided.
Yeah, that was a language that they
I know it
approved
was
too.
there.
It's
That was
funny.
a done approval?
So that comment, that one sentence I would like crossed out.
Yeah, so we're only going to uncross the petition signed by 60 stakeholders, and we're reducing 60
I
to
thought
50.
it was revised to 50.
Yeah, that's what I said. So we're uncrossing out that sentence that says 60, but we're reducing 60 to 50.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it's funny how they have some stuff in there like that. It's definitely not a perfect document, but do seem to like to hold us to a higher standard. Yolanda, do you have any comment on this?
Just two things. First of all, for clarification, we're not up to 60,000 in population. We're down to 37, period.
That's about right, yeah.
And that's based on the real estate sales as well. And the other thing I wanted to say was, even though we lower the petitions at 50, they can bring 100. They're still going to be taken into consideration. We're just putting a limit of 50, but if they bring in 100 to 200 for a very big issue, we're going to take those in consideration, and that's happened before.
Just so much the better.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Nick?
No, the only thing I would say is, I mean, I would before even lowering it further, to be honest with you. I agree with Helen that, stakeholders want to be heard. There's a petition going around right now in East Venice regarding airplane traffic over East Venice.
Insane.
And those people have over 700 signatures. So obviously the more signatures you get, your voice will be heard.
Yeah.
But the notion that we need more signatures and people suggesting that we need hundreds of signatures to get something on the ballot is absurd.
Yeah, I think one thing I want to add too is I think a lot of the concern here is that the people of Venice are going to elect a tyrant president, and there's going to be a tyrant board. The way that I'm looking at these structures is, how do we actually get a board that is more responsive to the stakeholders, where the elections encourage more people to vote in them, and that those seats are more competitive. So that it's not just someone willy-nilly walking into these positions and taking over and doing what they want, but that we actually have a board that's representative, that people actually voted in the elections, that there's competition for the seats, and that we have then a resulting structure that encourages civility and consent and collaboration versus the unfortunate makeup of the board now, which seems to be consumed more with internal squabbles and internecine warfare than it does in actually working on community issues that are important to the stakeholders. So
one thing remember
the idea that the president and everyone else that this new board in 2027 is going to be working in good faith, and they're going to be working together to put together these agendas. But at the same time, we're going to reduce a layer of bureaucracy where we don't have to have a meeting about having a meeting every time that we have a meeting. And I think that's just one of these ways where the entire thing gets, obstructed and the gunks up the works.
And what no one's thinking about is we had a 75% decrease in people voting. We have plenty of candidates.
If no one's voting, who are we voting for? I mean,
there's no drop off in the amount of candidates. The drop off is in people's participation, which is the problem.
Yeah, it's sad. And that's really what I'm looking at, is how do we get more people to participate? How do we make this process smoother, more civil, more collaborative, more collegial, and less focused on being a board that knows how to do all of the ridiculous bureaucratic work that the city is trying to push on us, and be able to do the work of actually advising the city on the matters that the constituents care about. Sorry, that's my spiel. Liz, your hand is up.
Oh, sorry about that. I have to do a lot of manipulation to put my hand up and down.
Sorry. So should we just vote on this then? So
let's vote.
I'm going for the vote, which is we are going to restore the sentence signed by 60 but 50 stakeholders shall override the determination and require that the item be placed on the agenda of the VNC board meeting within 60 days. we should have even reduced that 60 days to 30 days. I'd say 60 days is a long time. But
Why
no.
don't we make that motion now to reduce it to 30?
Yeah, I'm gonna say let's reduce that 30. 60 seems insane. That you have to wait that long if you get a petition. I think that it should be more responsive. So, it should be within that, that next month. So if no one opposes, I'm going to say the petition signed by 50 stakeholders shall override the determination require that the item be placed on the agenda of the board meeting within 30 days. And then the president shall set the agenda for each council meeting. That statement, the president shall set the agenda for each council meeting, that should come at the top. That should be the first sentence. And the second sentence should be a petition signed by 50 stakeholders shall override the president's determination and require that the item be placed on the agenda of a VNC board meeting within 30 days.
I'll even say
30
this,
days is
Ted.
not
Instead of
realistic.
saying 30 days, why don't you say at the next monthly meeting? In other words, once the petition is
That's good. Yeah, at the next monthly meeting. Liz?
it'll be at the next monthly meeting.
Yeah. Liz?
I think 30 days is unrealistic because it's going to depend on what is on the agenda. I mean, you can have a 3-hour agenda.
Like you could override the agenda.
What else is new?
Yeah.
What meeting's not 3
I think
hours?
60 is a good number.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right. If it's going to be an issue, I'll just leave it as it is. Let's do what we already discussed. It's 50-day. The president sets the agenda, and the petition. The second sentence is a petition signed by 50 stakeholders shall override the president's determination and require that the item be placed on the agenda within 60 days, which doesn't preclude the president and the board from getting it on earlier if it works. All right, will someone second that?
I second it.
All right, let's call the roll call. Liz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Nick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yolanda, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Excellent. So, I think we had the housekeeping to do, and I think the last part of the housekeeping is that these changes that we have voted on, I would like to see them packaged in a way that Liz had recommended, where we can. Because I don't think we want to just dump them all on the board in the way that, we've had the time to go through them. The full board isn't going to have the time to go through it this way. And so we should do it by issue theme, like Liz was suggesting.
Do we have any other amendments or do we have any more amendments or revisions to
Yes.
Clean up?
look at.
Oh, okay.
I think you want to present the bylaws changes as a package.
Correct.
It's one thing to present it as a package. You do not want to present it piecemeal. You
Okay.
do not want the board to go over it line by line at
That's
a
right.
meeting. You want them to be able to read it. There's nothing wrong with putting it up 3 weeks in advance
Okay.
as a supporting document. But you do not want to go through it line by line
Right.
in a board meeting.
Yes. So how are you suggesting we deliver it to them, Liz?
By paper.
No, a commented red line copy.
Okay.
It's got to be packaged for the March
It has to
meeting,
be
right?
delivered to Dunn,
Yes.
word edited,
Okay.
okay?
But just for
That's what you
clarification,
delivered to
this
the
has to
board.
go to done by March? What's our deadline on this?
April, no?
April 1st. April
Yeah.
1st.
April
Yep.
1st is the target. It would be
April
nice
Fool.
if it doesn't get in April 1st, it gets in later.
Maybe if they give us permission to.
They will.
It
We
may
can
be a year
request.
later, okay? But it will
I
get,
have no confidence in Dunn to give us an extension.
Yeah, I don't want to rely. I do think that we can work toward extension, but I don't want to rely on them giving us the extension because I've asked many times already and they've rebuffed my entreaties. But
Oh, okay.
I don't think that means that they won't do it. It's just, they make you fight for every little scrap.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Do
We
we
know.
need to meet another time to get this whole package?
I think
complete?
2 more times, no?
No, I think we can already submit what we have as a single package to
Oh,
the board.
okay.
Should we, my
Or-
question then is, should we meet again in February to get the rest of this done?
I don't think there's anything else that we really had to go back to do. It's just the housekeeping that
There
Liz was
is.
trying to bring up. Liz, let's give Liz the floor and let her finish her sentence.
Okay. Remember when I said you have only 4 offices' responsibilities defined?
Yes,
Okay. You have 4 district representatives.
yes,
They are going to have responsibilities
that's true.
to hold meetings.
That's right. Oh, to hold the
They
district.
must hold a town meeting
Yes, yes.
once a
Thank you.
quarter.
Right,
And it has to be defined in the bylaws.
that's right.
That is what happened, part of what happened originally when we had 7 areas, 7 area representatives. Didn't quite work because they weren't really finding out what the issues were in their communities.
That's right.
Are you suggesting that the area representatives have their own selective bylaws or
No,
processes?
I'm suggesting that they have quarterly town halls in their area.
When you say a town hall, what, can you expand on that?
A meeting somewhere in their area.
So just a general meeting like any other committee meeting for that particular area?
Yeah, like their district committee meeting essentially.
Before, go ahead.
Attendees would be from the area. The representative would say, here's what's going on in the neighborhood council. That's part A. Part B, what's going on with you guys? And what do you want me to bring up at the neighborhood council?
So Liz, are you making a motion?
Yes. I don't know where to put it in the bylaws, however, because you restricted that one section to executive officers only.
Oh, but it could, well, it was already that way, but committees and their duties.
It's not a committee.
Not a committee.
It could go to town hall. Liz, don't you remember we used to have little town halls where we used to get together by districts, different areas, and we were set around in tables and we all put together our issues by the areas that we represented. We can do that, and it doesn't need to be different little town halls. It could be one big town hall, and then
No, it cannot.
So
I think the usage of the
hold up a second. Liz,
Yeah.
can't this, because these are just meetings, they're not committees. Can we add this under Article 8 meetings? And under Section 1, meeting time and
It goes
place.
under responsibilities. It is the responsibility of the area rep to communicate with the people they say they're representing.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, here we go. Oh, no, you're right. This does make sense under Article 6 officers. They're just not going to be included under the executive officers, which are already stated on Article 6, Section 1, executive officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. It's just going to be under Article 6, Section 2, duties and powers, like you were trying to tell us to begin with. And under treasurer, you would have district chair. District chair performs the duty of hosting a quarterly
district meeting.
Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So you were right all along. You were right all along, Liz. All right. So let's can you I guess restate that motion for us so that we can get public comment?
have to find where it is.
Really, show everyone else.
Article 6, officers. Got it.
So what we're talking about
Vice
here.
President, Secretary, Treasurer, and District Representative. Is that
So
right?
yeah, under District 6 here, under Article 6, we already have defined that the executive officers are just the 4 of them. But under duties and powers, under treasurer, we would have Section E, district chairs.
District officers.
For the district officers.
Representatives. They're not chairs of anything.
Yeah, that's right. There aren't chairs of anything. The district officer, and they're going, how would you like to word it?
Duties. Well, she said duties and responsibilities, no?
Yeah, that's where it's under.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the section. So this would be under treasurer, would be, instead of D, it would be E.
At least quarterly. Shall have town hall meeting with stakeholders in that area.
All right. So the motion is to insert under duties, Section E, district officer, that the district officer shall hold a quarterly meeting for stakeholders in that area.
Explaining what VNC is doing.
Explaining what VNC is doing.
And learning what issues the stakeholders want him to bring up.
Non-gendered. Now let me let's invite some public comment on this. Ian, what do you think about this, Ian? You have the floor. You have 1 minute.
So you can hear me. I'm hearing all this stuff about how there's problems on the board. The problems on the board were created by the malfeasance of the past president and a few of his crony clique members, like Steve and I think the current vice president, now temporary chair. They were really creating enmity and acrimony for no reason, except to control things. And there was never a problem with this board. And I don't know what motivated this revision, except perhaps to make it much easier for a small group of people to take over the neighborhood council and then tell the city council person what she wanted to hear already, which is more fascism, please. Enough of this shit. No, I'm telling you, this is she's a Republican cop lawyer. And we've got people on this committee who are like part of a hate group.
Thank
so
you.
Yeah, I don't see.
Naomi, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Okay, so Yolanda, Liz, I was part of the Grassroots Venice Neighborhood Council from the very beginning, organizing it, pulling it together, and we had 7 districts. I was the Oakwood representative, and I did have meetings with my group and did hear from them what they needed, what they wanted to have presented, what their concerns were. So I perhaps later on, after the council was in session for a while, maybe some of the district, a couple of them maybe didn't engage as often as they should have. But I can say for the time that I was involved that we did meet with the various districts. And I think that the more you have in terms of district representation, the more you will get people to come and talk about what their concerns are. And that can get represented on a wider range. So I'm really concerned about some of these changes where we have less representation, and it has to do with the way the voting was changed, not by the way the people that showed up to vote, but the voting was changed, and that changed the makeup of the neighborhood council. That's where most of our issues came about.
Thank you. Helen, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Weren't you guys gonna call this meeting closed at 8:30? It's like you guys are, I think you're getting a little punch drunk here. Yeah, considering how quickly you went over the districts without looking at them, and now you want to have meetings in the districts, and you've also eliminated, I guess they won't have to be Brown Acted meetings. I don't even understand. Other NCs have representatives. Those representatives go out and reach out to their stakeholders. They have they aren't some huge districts. They're meaningful neighborhood representation. And when you have that, people talk to their neighbors because it's their neighbors, not somebody living in Oakwood who's now linked up with Penmar, because that's how you've divided things up, split by, a major arterial. I think you've got a lot of work to do on this if you think it's going to be, you're just going to create so much discussion at the board. This is going to be a disaster. We don't have time at the board to take care of the issues that you haven't looked at carefully and how everything ties together.
Thank you, Helen. Erica, you have the floor and you have 1 minute. Erica, you have to unmute yourself.
I know. Sorry about that. I had a lot of things open on my screen. Couldn't find the little button. Okay. So again, I just want to acknowledge there's no outreach chair. There's no communications chair. So I guess it's going to be a free for all, and all these people are going to just randomly create their own communications for everything. And why should we all be continuing these positions at this is very strange. I don't know. Like, is that really helpful? I think that those positions are created because they are needed to be able to be the voice for all of the members of the board and then all of the stakeholders. I mean, who's going to be applying for these permits when you have town halls and things like that? Is that, I mean, I don't know. You're going to have to put all those duties into someone else's description if you're going to remove those positions. But I think you need to make it really clear that you're removing those positions so people are very clear on what exactly they're voting for. And also Lupic, I don't remember hearing where that was coming from either.
Thank you, Erica. Kenya, you have the floor and you have 1 minute.
Hi, I just want to chime in that people's reluctancy against change, it's a natural human response. But I think that if we keep an open mind to redirecting and restructuring things, it is a possibility that we can get more engagement and more community activity, which is what I would assume everyone wants. So, Ted, I think you're doing a great job in trying other avenues of doing that. And I think people should keep an open mind in relation to what we're discussing today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenya. All right, I think that was the last for the public comment. Liz, I see your hands up for committee comment.
I'm done. Okay.
I think we're good on this. We're going to add the section E for the district chair, and that district chair is going to hold a quarterly meeting to discuss what's going on in the VNC and to find out what the priorities of their district is.
Yes.
And that's what we're voting on now. So we have a second?
Second.
All right. So Liz.
Yes.
Liz, would you vote? Nick.
Yes.
Wanda.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Excellent. So since we have Kenny here now, I don't know if it makes sense for us to vote on Kenya's motion, but
Let's hold it to the next meeting.
I think we put next meeting, but if we could also at least have a discussion about it.
Fine.
I'm going to allow Kenya to talk and we can hear from her what she'd like to do since she's been sitting here patiently with us.
Okay.
Kenya, if you're around, you have the floor.
Okay. If you're talking about one of the motions that appeared late on the agenda,
yeah, so
I wouldn't touch those.
You wouldn't even touch it?
I wouldn't touch anything because it is a violation of the Brown Act.
I would agree to go ahead and speak to it at a later time. That's fine with me. Thank you
Okay.
guys so much.
Really sorry about that, Kenya.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Kenya.
We certainly have to thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you guys. Have
Kind
a
of
good
crazy
night.
that we don't have.
Okay, before you close, are you gonna schedule a meeting in late February or early March?
I think that we should probably do one in late February. I think it makes sense. We have a lot more on the agenda, and we also need to figure out how to get, having a wider discussion also about, the standing rules and how those are going to change with the bylaws if we get these bylaws passed.
Yeah, I think another meeting sooner than later is a better idea.
Yeah. You guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good meeting, Ted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, sorry that it's gone so long, but I really appreciate all of you sticking through it. And Liz, I can't thank you enough for all of your excellent and thoughtful contributions and for keeping track.
She's the master of reading.
And
Has always
keeping track
been.
of all of it for us, because it's really a hard job.
Well, Liz has a legitimate and reliable institutional memory of this process and of this board.
So Liz, is there anything else that we need to do to share these amendments that we've made to the board?
It'll all work out.
Okay, I would like to ask you to read Robert's rules.
Yes.
On minutes. The versions I have say you don't have a motion on minutes. The question is, these are the minutes. Does anyone have corrections?
Correct.
If there are corrections, then they get put into the minutes.
Right.
That's correct.
If there are no corrections, the meetings are approved as submitted. If there are corrections, the minutes are approved as corrected.
That's correct. We have enough Philadelphia lawyers and wanna-be parliamentarians.
No motions, none of that.
That's correct. Thank you, Liz.
Because actually, you should not be able to vote on a motion on minutes unless you were there.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
Thank you, Liz, for reminding us.
All right. And so we're gonna submit these suggestions to the board.
Okay.
Okay.
What I intend to do in the minutes is to actually type out or cut and paste the actual stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Actual stuff that we approved.
A point of order. For this meeting, did we approve the minutes of the last meeting? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay,
did.
if we did, then the vote has to be 3 yes, 1 no, and Yolanda is recused because she wasn't on the committee in the last meeting.
Right.
Okay, so that's what should be reflected.
Okay.
Because Lydia voted no, and the 3 of us voted yes, and Yolanda wasn't a member of the last meeting. Does everyone agree with that?
That's right.
Yes.
So that's how they should be
Thank you.
revised. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
The meeting is.
Good night, everybody.
Right. Thank you.
Good night.
Night, night.